You're being fined for unsanitary conditions. That's what the letter said. I laughed, at first. Then I realized it wasn't a joke. The homeowners association had fined me because my neighbor's dog peed near my mailbox. And that single ridiculous moment would turn into a war that ended with me standing over the HOA president's desk, watching him eat his own words, literally. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, if you've ever been punished just because someone thought they had power over you, then stick around. Because this story isn't just about revenge. It's about proving that even the smallest person can bring an entire corrupt system crashing down. And if you've ever stood up for yourself, hit that like button and subscribe, because this one's for you. It started on a normal Tuesday morning. I was outside chatting with my neighbor, Paul, a pretty laid-back guy with a golden retriever named Buddy. Buddy trotted around like he owned the block, tail wagging, ears bouncing, when suddenly he lifted his leg and, well, nature called. Right there, near my mailbox. Paul laughed awkwardly, said, "Sorry, man," and I waved it off. It was a drop of dog pee on the sidewalk. We moved on. 2 days later, I came home to a letter taped to my door in big, bold letters. "O violet eon unes en artianateo sa DJC hient tio persona palpapi apartuis" are my first thought. This had to be a mistake. The letter claimed that within the boundaries of my lot, an unsanitary event had occurred, and the fine, $150. I read it twice, then 3 times. I didn't even own a dog. When I called the HOA office, the president herself, Linda, answered. She had that tone, you know the one. The voice of someone who enjoys being in charge. "Tort responsibility," she said, "falls on the property occupant to prevent unsanitary events." Prevent. I repeated. "You want me to stop other people's dogs from peeing near my mailbox?" Her reply, "Tor. You could have redirected the animal." Redirected. Like I'm some sort of dog traffic controller. I could feel my pulse rise. It wasn't about the 150. It was about being accused. About being treated like a child by someone hiding behind a rule book they barely understood. Meanwhile, the HOA's own landscaping crew dumped fertilizer piles bigger than Buddy's mess every single week. And those unsanitary events were apparently fine because, as Linda put it, that's maintenance. I refused to pay and filed a formal appeal. That's when the real fun began. The HOA board scheduled a hearing over dog pee. They printed my name on the meeting agenda right below, community budget review. When I walked in, I expected a quick chat. Instead, I found 5 board members sitting in a row like a jury. Linda sat in the middle, smiling like a cat that caught a mouse. "Mr. Parker," she began, "or records indicate that the incident occurred adjacent to your lot. The bylaws are clear." I pulled out a copy of the AA's own CC and RAS. Those long, boring rules no one ever reads. But I had spent the entire night studying them. Page 47, section 12.40. Homeowners are responsible for maintaining sanitary conditions on their property. Not adjacent to. I read that part aloud, word for word. Linda's smile faltered. That's subject to interpretation," she said. That's when I realized something. She didn't care about the rule. She cared about control. I could have paid the fine and walked away. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how many people like me had probably just rolled over for her. So I decided to fight. Not just for me, but for every neighbor who'd been bullied by this petty tyrant. I gathered evidence. Photos of the HOA landscapers leaving fertilizer piles on sidewalks. Videos of maintenance trucks leaking oil near mailboxes. Even screenshots of old emails where Linda herself authorized work that violated the same unsanitary clause they were fining me for. If they wanted to play legal games, I'd play chess. The appeal meeting was set for the following Friday evening. Word spread fast through the neighborhood. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who had been fined for ridiculous things. Trash cans being visible for more than 10 minutes, or holiday lights that stayed up one day past the deadline. By the time the meeting started, half the neighborhood had shown up. Linda sat at the front again, tapping her pen impatiently. Let's keep this brief," she said. "You're here regarding the sanitation violation near your lot." I took a deep breath and started with the facts. Then I projected the photos of their own fertilizer piles onto the community projector screen. Next, I played the video of one of their trucks spilling oil directly onto the same sidewalk. Gasps filled the room. The board members exchanged nervous glances. And finally, I pulled out the HOA bylaws. Sure, Section 12.4, I read, states clearly that homeowners are responsible for conditions on their property, not beyond. You fine me for something that happened off my property, caused by someone else, witnessed by your own landscapers. Linda tried to interrupt, but I wasn't done. I handed each board member a printed copy of my evidence packet. Sure. And just so we're clear, I said, if this fine isn't revoked immediately, I'll be filing a complaint with the county health department regarding your fertilizer disposal and a civil claim for harassment. The room went silent. Linda's face drained of color. One board member whispered something to another, and within seconds, they called for a brief recess. When they returned, the fine was revoked effective immediately, but that wasn't the end. A week later, I got another letter from the HOA's legal counsel. It was a formal apology for the misinterpretation of regulations and a confirmation that new clarifications would be added to the community handbook. Apparently, my little rebellion had forced a policy change, but the best part, Linda resigned 2 months later. Rumor had it the board was tired of cleaning up her messes, figuratively and literally, and me, I never paid that $150. Instead, I printed the original violation notice, framed it, and hung it in my hallway with a small gold plaque beneath it that reads for services in redirecting dogs. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about holding people accountable, especially the ones who think they're untouchable. When systems of power go unchecked, they start believing they're above fairness. And the most powerful thing you can do is remind them they're not. If you've ever been hit with an unfair fine or stood up to someone abusing their authority, let me know in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And if you believe justice, no matter how small, is worth fighting for, subscribe and share this story, because sometimes the sweetest victories start with something as small as a puddle on the sidewalk